The incoming Trump administration does not need the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to start mass deportation. Let's talk about it. Hi, I am U.S. immigration attorney Lilian Chukwurah, and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships for themselves and their family using the U.S. immigration law system. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is a very sexy thing to say and, say that you're going to use it for mass deportation. However, in reality, it's not really going to be necessary in order for Trump to start mass deportation. Let me explain. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 basically says that in a time of declared war, the president can designate a country that will basically be able to detain and deport their citizens from the U.S. Okay, that's what it says. In a time of declared war, currently U.S. is not in any declared wars because Congress has to declare war, not the president. So unless Congress declares war, that Alien Enemies Act of 1798 does not come into effect. Regardless of how much the president-elect wants to use it, it does not come into effect unless he can get Congress to declare war on a specific country. If the goal is to remove undocumented immigrants from the U.S., you need to specify which country those people are from that you're declaring war on, and you can only remove individuals from those countries, okay? Just because you declare war on one country does not mean you now have the ability to remove every single undocumented person from the U.S. So let's make that clear and get that out of the way. Now let's talk about the real ways that they can try to remove someone from the U.S. The first one is expedited removal. Expedited removal is a process that the U.S. government can take to remove someone that entered without inspection or present themselves at a port of entry without any documentation. The officers can remove the person without them ever entering the U.S., without them ever going through immigration court. Now, of course, they can do that. Let's talk about how they can use expedited removal for people already in the U.S., right? They can do it for people that show up at the port of entry without proper documentation or with fake documentation. Of course, they can do that. Let's talk about how they can use it for people that are already physically in the U.S. The law on expedited removal also says that if you have been in the U.S. for less than 2 years, you are subject to expedited removal. That means if ICE is able to detain you, they can remove you from the U.S. using expedited removal. They don't have to put you in immigration court proceedings. So that's why mass deportation and using the Alien Enemies Act step is just a facade, because they know they already have these processes and they have talked about using these processes to get people out of the U.S. So if you have been in the U.S. for less than 2 years, you are subject to expedited removal if you meet the ICE requirements, right? With the Biden administration, they had priorities for ICE. Basically, they told ICE officers, these are the people that are priorities. These are the people we want you to focus on as far as getting them removed from the U.S. And with the Trump administration, he has made it very clear that those priorities are going away. Everyone is now a priority. If you are undocumented and ICE gets to you, you will be put in immigration court proceedings. Or if you have been in the U.S. for less than 2 years, you can be put in expedited removal process. So really important to know the difference there. Why does it make a difference if you are put in expedited removal versus immigration court? Immigration court process can take several years. We have cases that are in some places being scheduled for 2029. That's how bad it is. Okay. So if the goal is mass deportation as quickly as possible, then they're going to want to fit as many people into the expedited removal process as possible. Now, another way they can remove people as quickly as possible without expedited removal is by having people detained. When ICE detains someone that they want to deport, if the person has to go through the regular immigration court process and they are detained, the immigration court is going to make their case a priority. Because you're in detention, immigration court wants to get through your case as quickly as possible to either approve you for some form of relief in the U.S. that allows you to be taken out of detention and go back to, living your life, or to have your case denied and you be removed from the U.S. Either way, they want to get you out of detention as quickly as possible. So they can put you in immigration court proceedings and have you in detention, knowing that having you in detention is going to make your case go faster, which will increase the likelihood of you being removed faster. Okay? So that's the two things. The expedited removal, less than 2 years in the U.S., you can be removed without having to go through immigration court proceedings. If you are put in immigration court proceedings, but you are also detained by ICE, that's going to expedite your immigration court process. Because like I said, cases that are in regular immigration court proceedings where people are not detained are taking several years to get to the final decision. So we are seeing that the Trump administration is making plans to build more detention centers, to have more funding for ICE to actually find and detain people for the process of getting them deported from the U.S. So those are the two ways that they can do this quickly without the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. And they know this. That's the crazy part. They know this. That has been part of their policy the first go around, and it's part of their policy this time around, which is to remove enforcement priorities, to use expedited removal as much as possible, and to detain people in order to expedite their immigration court deportation proceedings as well. One thing that they also want to do is to expand the pool of people that ICE can easily get to either detain or to remove under the expedited removal process. And the main pool that they have said that they will continue to do, which is something they did in the first round of the Trump administration, is worksite raids. They will target certain companies, worksite, factories, farms that they know that undocumented people work at, and they will raid those farms, those factories, those companies to try and sweep in as many undocumented immigrants as possible. Their plan is to detain those undocumented immigrants, put them in immigration court proceedings. Again, because they're detained, their process is going to go faster. There are going to be immigration lawyers that are available to try to get them out of detention, because once you get them out of detention, they can now go through the regular immigration court proceedings. But as long as you remain in detention, you're going to go through that fast-tracked immigration court process. So that is the way that they're planning on doing this. Do not let the word Alien Enemies Act, that's just that they know that is not the way they're going to do it. Because if that's the way they're going to do it, then they would need to be talking about which countries they plan to declare war on. Okay? That's the thing. If you're going to use this act, you need to then talk about which countries you plan on declaring war on. So they would need to declare which country they're declaring war on, and then the president would then need to declare that the citizens of that country are now enemies of the U.S. The thing is, if let's say he's able to do all of that, it only applies to undocumented immigrants, immigrants here on temporary visas, and immigrants that have a permanent residency. Citizens are not included. So even though you're a citizen, you're a naturalized citizen from a certain country, if this act, for some reason, Congress goes through the process of declaring war in a certain country and you are originally from that country, but you are now a naturalized citizen of the United States, this does not apply to you. It's for anyone that is not already a U.S. citizen. So I hope that explains how they plan to make this mass deportation work. It's not through this act, it's through the power that the president has. Okay, the president has these powers already. He does not need the Alien Enemies Act in order to find, detain, and remove people that are undocumented, right? He can find, detain, and remove people that are undocumented already. Does that make sense? From any country. It does not have to be a specific country. So he already has the power. The Alien Enemies Act is just a facade to make it seem like there's something, grandiose. But he already has the power. He's going to use expedited removal. He's going to use putting people in detention to try and expedite the process of getting them out of the U.S. as quickly as possible. He's going to take away the enforcement priorities to put more people in ICE detention, to put more people in immigration court proceedings. He's going to do work site raid in order to, again, get more people in detention, get more people into immigration court proceedings, or expedited removal to get them out of the U.S. When it comes to people that have been in the U.S. for less than 2 years, you really want to make sure that you are applying for some other immigration process, okay? Especially the people that came in on the humanitarian parole program under the Biden administration. If you have not hit your 2 years, just know you would be up for expedited removal if you end up in ICE custody. Secondly, you want to make sure that if you have been in the U.S. for more than 2 years, that you have documentation on you that shows that fact. And I will be honest with you, during the first Trump administration, we did this for our clients. We had them make sure that they are carrying documentation, tax returns, work authorization documents, whatever you have that shows you have been physically in the U.S. for more than 2 years. Make sure you have copies of it on you so that if you are picked up by ICE, you are not removed from the U.S. before you have a chance to fight your case in court, right? Expedited removal does not go through immigration court proceedings. ICE can literally pick you up, find the expedited removal document, and put you on a plane out of the U.S. Okay? They can do that. So you want to make sure that if you know you have been in the U.S. for 2 years or more, that you have documentation on you, you can show that to the ICE officer. You also want to make sure that your family knows where you are at all times, and if there's any issues, that they are contacting an immigration lawyer that can try to find you and stop any expedited removals from them. Okay, there are things that we can do, like filing a stay of removal with the court to try and stop ICE from removing you physically from the U.S. So there are things that we can do. Make sure that you have family or friends that have your information and are able to contact an immigration lawyer on your behalf to get that process going. As always, if you have questions about this or any other immigration issues, please put them in the comment. I want to answer your question. I am here for you to give you the information as we go through the next few months of uncertainty and then the next 4 years of just trying to figure out what they're doing and how we can fight. Okay, fight whatever it is. So If you have questions, put them in the comments. I'm always going to give you this at the end of these types of videos. If you are ever in a situation where ICE knocks on your door at your house, you have rights. They cannot enter your home unless they have a signed warrant from a judge. You do not have to open your door. If they have a warrant, they can use that warrant to enter. But if they do not have a warrant, you do not have to open your door. If they want to arrest you at your home, they should have an arrest warrant signed by a judge, right? Right. Because you are in your home. You're not outside on the street. That's different. Okay? You do have the right to remain silent. You don't have to answer questions now. There are some states where you have to give them your name, right? But that's about it. You do have the right to remain silent. Use it. And just make sure you are taking care of yourself and your families during this time. And if you have questions, go ahead and ask in the comments. If you want a private consultation, you can do that by going to my website, lilylegal.com, and clicking on Contact Us. And I'll be able to meet with you and figure out if you qualify for something and give you legal advice on what you can do. I'm actually going to be increasing the time for these appointments just because there's just a lot going on right now, and I want to give you the time to talk to me about all of it. Right? So we're going to be increasing it from 15 to 30 minutes for the consultation. Those are still free. So we're going from 15 minutes free, 30 minutes free, so that we can really dig deep and talk about all your possibilities. So that's one thing that I will be doing moving forward to just help as much as I can. So the 15-minute strategy sessions are going to be, as of the time this video goes out, when you click on the strategy sessions on my website to schedule them, they're going to be going from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So anyone that schedules after this video comes up, you're going to be getting a free 30-minute strategy session with me. And we're going to be discussing your immigration history and figuring out if there is something you qualify for.